Dr. J's Prescription for Health. This is Saturday live stream. This is Tucker. He is my co-host from heaven. And the other little boy is right now sleeping, so we're going to let him sleep. I want to welcome everybody. Hopefully I got some new people here, and I'll introduce myself in a moment. But I want to thank everybody for joining in. It tells me that you are serious about your health. And we do these live streams every Saturday at 9 a.m. Central, every Sunday at 10 a.m. Central. For those of you who are on Instagram, we are live on Instagram and YouTube. For those of you who are on Instagram, we have a live fundraiser for rescue, rehab, and rehome. It's a rescue I support here in the Des Moines area. It's where I got Tallow and Buddy, of course. So there's 2 days left on our current fundraiser. I'm trying to get $100 for that fundraiser. Well, I guess $200 I have it set for. So we're at $56 and a penny. All right, I thought I heard him. All right, so as we wait for people to get on YouTube, today I thought I would take you on my little journey, how I got started, briefly got started, and where I'm at today and what I do. Now, most of you know that, and you've been here before, you know I've been in practice for 28 years. And after leaving residency, I went into practice with a solo practitioner. And I was in that for about a year. I was doing some moonlighting at a walk-in clinic, and I ended up taking a job at that clinic for the next 10 years. It was a hospital-owned clinic, and for the time that I was there, it was wonderful, okay? I transitioned into a walk-in clinic for 4 or 5 years, and then the last 14 years I've been on my own, and it's been amazing. But what I do now is a bit different. I closed the physical office. So I no longer work in an office seeing patients on a daily basis. I see my clients from a consultation video. And my practice now is reviewing your labs, reviewing your diet, reviewing your exercise program, reviewing all of your lifestyle, and helping you make some changes or see that you need to make changes. And good morning, Angel. Thank you for being here. My main goal is for you guys to be able to doctor yourself. Of course, we need a doctor for acute injuries and acute illnesses. That means like right now. But your chronic illnesses are not being managed very well, in my opinion. Now, maybe you think everything is going fantastic. That's awesome. Maybe this is not for you. But those of you who feel that something is wrong, you feel like you've been shorted, and you just want somebody to tell you what's going on. Now, I'm not gonna tell you that I know everything, but what I do know is that I've been studying these labs and blood work for years, and I'm seeing little pearls, little intricacies that other doctors are missing. I believe that we need to stop assuming that our blood work is fine just because it falls within reference ranges. The reference ranges on conventional labs are designed to pick up if you have a failing organ. It's going to look at your kidney function, your liver function, but the ranges that they give, for instance, on your kidney, if you look at the estimated GFR, it's called the little e, big G, big F, big R. So if you want to pull out your labs right now and just go over them a bit, I'm going to give you some examples of why reference ranges without flags is doing you a disservice, and we're missing patterns, okay? So for instance, on the estimated GFR, if you look at the range, the reference range, usually it'll say greater than 60 is normal, is what they call the reference range. And they're gonna say that's normal. But in all reality, you guys, a reference range showing a 60 is actually CKD stage 2 already. It's chronic kidney disease stage 2. But they'll tell you you're normal and don't worry about it. Or you're just going to look at your reference ranges and feel that you are okay, but you're not. Your kidney function really should be greater than 90. Your estimated GFR should be greater than 90. That tells you that your kidneys are doing its job. But when it says greater than 60, it could be 90 or it could be 61. And you can see where the discrepancy comes in, that you think that everything is fine when you are bordering or teetering on a CKD stage 2 into a CKD stage 3A. Not a good thing. So again, context matters. No questions so far. I like that. Will you let me just hang out and talk to you about, let's review some other metabolics. Let's say we get a complete metabolic profile. Everybody should get a CMP. When you get a CMP, one of the things that I like you guys to look at is the ALK-Phos, alkaline phosphatase, ALP, or it'll say ALK-PHOS, ALK-Phos. Now, in the past, I've told you guys to look for high values because it's going to tell you what your liver is doing if you have a backup or sludge in your liver. And so I've been adamant about looking for a high ALK-Phos, ALP, okay? High ALK-Phos over 100 tells me that you have sludge in your liver and into your ducts, the ducts that deliver the bile, okay? But what about if the ALK-Phos is low? So PET says their ALK-Phos was 49. Is that good? Well, an ALK-Phos below 50 or below 45, okay, could be a reliable indicator that you have zinc or magnesium deficiency. So you never even got they wouldn't do your magnesium level. They don't do your zinc level, but you look at your ALK-Phos and you go, Dr. Jensen says if it's less than 50 or less than 45, I could have low zinc and low magnesium, right? Yeah, wow, right, pets? So these are the things that people miss. And, for PET, you could say, hey, my doc won't get an RBC magnesium, won't get a zinc level. Maybe I'll get them because this ALK-Phos could indicate that my zinc or my magnesium is low, because those two things are basically cofactors to synthesize or make ALK-Phos. So if you're not really making enough ALK-Phos, then you could look to zinc and magnesium because those are cofactors in order to make your ALK-Phos, alkaline phosphatase. All right? These are just the little things that we end up missing. And since I'm not seeing 40 or 50 patients a day, I'm seeing a few patients a day, spending an hour with you guys and going over line by line what we could be missing. And if I see a low ALK-Phos, I might say, hey, Pet, let's think about getting, okay, good. Pet said, thank you, Doc. I'll bring that up. I have blood work coming up on the 28th. So if you've had consistent low ALK-Phos, so it's been less than 50, less than 45 on a couple of different occasions, write that down for them and say, hey, I did some reading and my elk phos is a little low. Do you think you can order a zinc or magnesium? Because those are two minerals that have been shown to indicate that there's a deficiency. I don't know how you're going to state it, because you're going to make them look like they've missed something. And I don't want you to get into that, into that rabbit hole. But another thing is, when elk phos is low, your immune cells might be low, and your gut lining, it could indicate that your gut lining is a little under the weather. What do I mean by that? If your gut lining or your stomach, or even the acidity in your stomach is under functioning, it's at a bad level, so that we want a pH between 1 and 3. And if it's too alkaline, above 3, we don't absorb magnesium, zinc, iron, amino acids, selenium, all of those. So yeah, it could indicate also, Pat, that, okay, maybe it's not zinc and magnesium, or maybe it is, but it could even go deeper, that you're actually getting enough zinc and magnesium, but you can't absorb it. So it's in the foods, or you're taking a supplement and your gut is not good. You're not absorbing it. But it would indicate to me, if your elk phos was low, that your cells, like your gut cells or your immune cells, are starving for magnesium and zinc. That's in a roundabout way, that's what I would first consider, okay? Rheumatologist had made a note of other deficiencies. Good, that's good, that's great. Okay, thought somebody said hello here, just wanted to say hi. Divine Timeline says, what is your name? I'm Dr. Malia Jensen. Hi, Frank. Thanks for being here. Okay, what's another one? We'll just go through a few, because I want you to understand what I look at. I spend a good 1 to 2 hours looking over your blood work and the lifestyle, your diet that you send me, your exercise routine, your sleep pattern, your mental health. You tell me all of that stuff, and I plug it in to your labs. I look at all of these things and I go line by line. I don't have like a program that says, hey, analyze this and pick out all of the things that are wrong. I have seen you guys do some labs from other people, okay? And they have a program. I'm not saying that the program is bad. I'm just saying I do most of my stuff by hand, by me picking things out, okay? Because they're not going to necessarily know that you eat 1 or 2 or 3 meals a day. You're eating cruciferous vegetables. They're not going to take in all of these considerations when they tell you, hey, your thyroid is a little low and you're eating a package of broccoli and cauliflower every single day. Okay, so you got to put everything into context, and I'm not sure that they're doing all that. They just analyze your labs. That would be a benefit of maybe hiring me to look over your labs. Let's go over anion gap, anion gap, A-N-I-O-N, gap. It'll be on your sheet. When it's low, well, how about this? Usually we flag it when it's high. Usually we'll say, oh my gosh, your anion gap is high. You have a metabolic acidosis. Okay, metabolic acidosis. But what if labs, your values are low? Which honestly, as doctors, we pretty much ignore it. We don't think about it. So if your anion gap is less than 6 or 7, it could indicate hypo, low, albuminemia. Oh boy, emia, blood, albumin is a protein. Or it could even be a low or a hidden mineral dilution, or malabsorption, which I talked about before, with a pH in your stomach that is not allowing you to extract the minerals or the protein in your diet. Let's review again. High anion gap, usually metabolic acidosis. Low anion gap, something that we miss on a regular basis, we just ignore it. Maybe we don't miss it, we just ignore it, could indicate, especially if it's less than 6 or 7, could indicate hypoalbuminemia, low blood albumin. You would look at the albumin level on that CMP. The anion gap is on the CMP. The albumin is on the CMP. You'll have a total protein on the CMP, complete metabolic profile. You'll have a globulin level on the CMP, okay? If your total protein is elevated, or how about, let's just say normal. Well, you know what, that'll be another one. Let's just talk about total protein when we get to it. But that is another one where we look to absorption, and especially looking for this combination of the anion gap with a low albumin. So globulins should look elevated or higher in order to get the total protein equal or in the optimal range. Total protein equals albumin plus globulin. Total protein on the CMP equals albumin and globulin. If you look at the anion gap, it could indicate one of those is off, all right? So we got to look around the things, because you could be eating a diet full of protein, but you're not breaking that protein down into the usable amino acids that are the building blocks. We have to extract those amino acids to make muscle and to feed the tissues. So are you, one, getting enough protein? But if you think you are, say you're getting 125 grams of protein a day, you might not be absorbing it or being able to extract it and get those amino acids out. Okay? All right. Pet says a low Billy. Well, we'll get to that one too. Okay, where these are good, but this is what now it's getting you guys to look at your labs, and that's great. But you know, Pet mentioned an albumin of 4.3. That's pretty low, right? What about the anion gap? That's what I would look at next, okay? All right, what is another one on my uric acid? This is a good one. So most of us hear uric acid elevation and we think gout. What about a low uric acid? Likely ignored by most doctors. If your uric acid level is less than, say, 3.5, you could have low molybdenum. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's on the periodic table. What does that mean? It could also mean that you have a severe impairment in the sulfur pathways and detoxification in your body. So simply looking at a low uric acid level. Remember, uric acid also acts like an antioxidant. So if it bottoms out, it could indicate that you have systemic oxidation. I would look to your CRP in that case and see, is your high sensitive CRP, or if you just got a CRP, is it over 1? And I say, okay, we do have some systemic inflammation going on. Why is that uric acid level low? Why is it bottoming out? Because we're getting oxidative stress, and that's causing inflammation. We don't want too much uric acid, but we need a little bit because it's an antioxidant, okay? Okay, Pet says, I've been carnivore since, I don't know since when, and am looking forward to new blood work. Awesome. Expect me in your email as a client. All right, that sounds great. Thank you. All right, so we talked about, I have all these notes written down. Let's go over, we did some CMP. Let's go over the CBC. Let's just go over a few things on the CBC. All right. A CBC is a complete blood count. Oh, you've been, okay, carnivore for 2 years. Excellent. Good job. Most of the time, doctors will look at the hemoglobin and hematocrit, the H&H it's called. And H&H, if it's normal, they'll say, oh good, there's no anemia, and they kind of miss everything else. They'll say, oh, they're normal. The rest of the CBC is usually ignored, but I like to look at specifically the RDW, and it will give you the red blood cell width, the mean width, the distribution width. What are the sizes of your RDW? Is there a lot of different sizes of red blood cells? So if your RDW is above 13.5 or 14, even if your hemoglobin and hematocrit are normal, it could be an early warning sign that you have a B12 deficiency or iron deficiency or a folate deficiency. When we get an RDW, it means, and it's elevated, it means that you have a lot of red blood cells that are different sizes. You could have normal sized red blood cells. You could have tiny little red blood cells called microcytic, and you could have macrocytic. But when your bone marrow just starts pumping out red blood cells, if they're large, macrocytic, they're very fragile and they can break down. And they indicate a B12 or a folate or even an iron dysregulation. I like to call it dysregulation. And I learned that from another individual because as doctors, we mainly talk about iron deficiency. We call it anemia. And anemia is kind of a bad word to use because it really doesn't tell you anything. And that's why we need to really look deep, because even if you have a high RDW, your red blood cells, MCV, might not be elevated yet. MCV, when it's elevated, say it's over 90. I like a cutoff of 90. The reference range will give you a cutoff of a 100. They'll say if it's greater than 100, then you have macrocytosis. I start looking at this at 90, 92, 95. I'm starting to go, your red blood cells are looking kind of big. Then I scan down to the RDW and I say, yeah, RDW is above 13.5, 14. So we are maybe missing a macrocytosis. We better get iron studies, an iron level, a ferritin, a transferrin, iron saturation, and a TIBC. And then we better get a B12 level, and we better get a folate level. And we might want to get an MMA level just to make sure that you're actually absorbing the B12. Now, I don't need that latter level if I see your med list and you're on a PPI, a proton pump inhibitor. That is like Nexium or Zgrid or Asifex, Prilosec. They change the pH of your stomach. They're going to make it more, your acid, your stomach contents, more alkaline. If it's more alkaline outside of a pH of 1 to 3, you aren't absorbing B12 or folate or iron or amino acids or magnesium, zinc, selenium, all of those. You have a decreased ability to absorb, even if you're getting enough. Even if you took a supplement and you say, I can't get my B12 level up. Why is that? Well, I look to say, hey, do you have any stomach problems? Oh yeah, I've had stomach reflux for years. I'm on Prilosec, or I've been off and on Prilosec, or I take Tums, or I'm doing something that changes the pH of my stomach. Okay? I guess let's not wait for the hemoglobin and hematocrit to start lowering or elevating to indicate that we got a problem. Let's look and try to prevent these things. We can look at the RDW. We can look at the MCV. Now, what about if the white blood cell count? That's on the CBC. It's usually the first line item. It'll say WBC. And usually we look for elevated white blood cell counts. Elevated. That means, okay, you could be sick. And so we better look at, does it look viral or does it look bacterial? But what if it's really low? What if it's below 4.0? We think, okay, we got a leuko white blood cell, penia, low white blood cell count. A constant value below or between 4 and 5. Many of you guys, over time, you'll have 4 blood readings. Over the next, 2-3 years, you'll say, oh my gosh, my white blood cell count is always low. It's always low. It's been chronically low. Oh, well, if it's chronically low, do you have a chronic viral load? What are you talking about, Dr. Jensen? I'm talking about, what if you have a chronic Epstein-Barr virus or a chronic cytomegalovirus infection? It's just low level. No one ever looked. But you have a chronic between 4 and say 4.5 or 4 and 5 white blood cell. See, the doctors will miss that. They'll say, oh, you've always been like that. Well, you've always maybe had a viral load infection, okay? And honestly, pathogens love to eat iron. That is food for them. So we can look at your iron studies as well as an indicator, your white blood cell count, and go, oh my gosh, Dr. Jensen is right. Maybe I should get an EBV titer or a CMV titer. Those are just 2 viral particles. Yeah, I'm guessing a parasitic infection could indicate the exact same thing, right? A low white blood cell count. Parasites could indicate that. We need to, continue to look beyond, look around at things. All right, let's go back to the CMP. I can tell a lot from these two tests, a CMP, which most every doctor orders, and a CBC. It's just, it's just normal, okay? But they're not flagging things for you. What if you see, let's go to your liver function, the ALT and the AST. If your ALT is low, most doctors will say, whew, good, your liver is working fine. But I've seen it, good morning, Julissa, good morning. I've seen an ALT below 10. I've seen it at 6. I've even seen it at 4. Now, I thought, maybe I don't. I thought I had them right here, but I don't. And I haven't looked, I have not analyzed my mom's labs, but we were just at the cardiologist and I didn't have her labs, but the doctor, started going through the labs and, she's reading them off and I go, yeah, that's not good. And she goes, why? And then I explained. And we got to the ALT, and my mom's ALT was 4. It was 4. And I said, that's not good. Because normal ALT, AST, it really should be in a 1-to-1 ratio. It should be, say, 10 to 15. ALT and AST should be in the 10 to 15 range. If it's over 15, ALT, I start looking at, or 20, I start looking at fatty liver. But if it's low and there's an inversion, the AST will be elevated, slightly elevated, okay? Could be 20. ALT is 4 and you're going, what is going on? You look to medications. Is there a medication that is toxic to the liver? Also, with a low ALT, you want to think about low B6, low vitamin B6. Why? Well, B6, or In my mom's, let's go first, let's clear up my mom's thing. My mom has an ALT of 4. What does my mom have? And her AST is a little elevated, not really, but maybe it's 16 or so, okay? I can't remember because it's not, I don't know where I put it. I thought I had it, but let me see. No, I thought I had it. I do not have it, but let's just go with it. So my mom has Parkinson's, and with Parkinson's, I don't know if you guys know anybody with Parkinson's, and I believe I've talked about this in the past. They're usually on carbidopa, levodopa. Well, that particular medication basically consumes the host, you, my mom, B6. The B6 will be low in a Parkinson patient who is on carbidopa, levodopa. But what if it's not a Parkinson person? What if it's just an average person? You look at the ALT, they're really not looking unhealthy, but they have these low-level complaints, maybe even GI. They might have a little reflux. They might have a little bloating and kind of belly dysfunction. And you say, well, I've always had that. Okay. I would look to candidal overgrowth, fungus. Then I can also look to the iron studies. Remember, pathogens like fungal, parasitic, viral, bacterial, they consume B6 and iron. So if a person has low B6, they're not Parkinson's, they're not on a medication like carbidopa, levodopa, or other medications that lower B6, I think, maybe this person's got an overgrowth of fungal infection. It's possible. Now, let's look at H. pylori. That's a bug, I call him a bug, a bacteria that loves to grow in our stomach. And he causes problems, GI discomfort. He will actually show an elevated B6. But I thought you said, doctor, that they like to eat B6. They do. They're consuming the active form of the B6. And so that is called the P5P level, pyridoxal 5-phosphate. It's the active B6 level. Can you get that level? Yes. If you have H. pylori, you could have an elevated B6 and a functionally low P5P, meaning the inactive B6 is not converting to the active or the P5P, the usable form. And it will be reflection in an ALT, which is low. Make sense? Probably not. I know this is deep. Sandy says, Doc, do you use AI in your daily life to enhance your health and fitness? What would be an indication of enhancing my health and fitness? Do I use AI? Absolutely. I do. Anytime I Google something, it is using AI now. For the most part, it is AI. It is becoming a part of our daily life. In fact, when I do you guys' charts, when I put your charts together, so I'll do a SOAP note, a subjective, objective assessment and plan. So for those of you who have seen my notes, I send all the notes to you after I get done. There are some of you who do not do the consultation. You just want me to analyze your labs and send you the progress note. And I'm good with that. See, there's an initial consultation fee that is $150. And I spend 2, sometimes 3 hours analyzing, and I will email you and say, I need your diet. I mean, every single day I need your diet. I need a 4-day average diet. I need your exercise routine. I need your sleep routine. I need your work routine. I need your smoking and drinking and alcohol. I need all of that. Okay? When I organize your chart, Guess what? It all has AI. So AI will organize all of my notes. I'll take notes, something like this. I take notes, and when I plug my notes into your chart to make a SOAP note, I first start with the subjective section, and it goes through your past medical history, your family history, your social history, your age, your all of that, okay? All of that demographic stuff. And then it'll do a little bit of what you told me why you want to be seen. Hey, Dr. Jensen, can you analyze my labs? I have blah, blah, blah. You'll tell me some symptoms you have. That is part of a review of systems, which is in there. When I plug in all of my notes into your thing, AI organizes it for me. It'll put it in little line items. Okay, that is part of the new EMR, electronic medical records. I'm guessing every doctor uses it now, because we used to just copy and paste, which is not a bad thing. I know it sounds bad, but it's not a bad thing, because it actually helps keep every single note exactly the same, and then we can add to it. But with AI now, it automatically does it for us. It will say, well, it'll put all the old labs in for you. I usually do it by hand. It'll say labs, and then it'll be like 2024, 2023, 25, 26, and it'll have them all. And then I put those into a table for you, so it's a little easier for you to organize. Okay, for those of you who have had consultations, you can verify what I'm talking about, because this is what the note looks like. On the bottom, I will even tell you this note was organized. My thoughts were organized using AI. Not my actual thoughts, but the ability to put it into it's so much faster. And that's why doctors are using it. Now, again, I don't know how else they're using AI. It doesn't matter to me. You are my client. I'm going through your stuff. I don't really care about what your doctor is doing and how they're using AI. Sandy, I'm venturing to guess everybody uses AI. If you want to look up a weed in your backyard, you take a picture and say, what is this? And AI will tell you. Then you go get the whatever pesticide, herbicide, whatever it is, or you get the right tool and you take it out of the ground. That is, I just can't imagine anybody saying, oh, I never use AI. I think they're, yeah, okay. All right, did I miss anything over on Instagram? I'm live on Instagram and Instagram and YouTube. I'm trying to read and think at the same time. Julissa says, my TSH is 4.85. That's too high. Your TSH should be less than 2. Anonymous, Lynn, hopefully I said that right. Just had labs done. I'm moving in the right direction, I think. ALT 24, AST 27. Yes, they are in a 1-to-1 ratio. And yes, I don't know what they were, but I'm hoping you're moving in the right direction. Our goal is somewhere between 10 and 15. At least you don't have an inversion going on. You have a pretty good 1-to-1 ratio, which I look at as a positive. But again, I'm going to lean toward Lynn having some fatty liver. She could have some insulin resistance. Her insulin level could be elevated over 5 or 6. Would tell me that, her insulin is too high. She's laying down fat around her visceral organs, especially the liver, with an ALT of 24. Now, not always. There can be some other things. She might have been exercising right before she got that test done. She could have gone to the gym, early morning, 5 a.m. workout, did her thing, showered, got to the doctor at 8:30, and that could indicate an ALT or an AST of high, 24 and 27, okay? What if Lynn ate a very high protein diet? Maybe she's getting 150 grams of protein from animals, meat, and sardines, and tuna, and all kinds of fish, and chicken, and turkey, and pork, and all of that Could that indicate an ALT and AST elevated? Yes, but I want to look all around. I need to look all around. I can't just look at her 24 and 27 and say, oh, well, you got fatty liver. No, I have to look all around. There's a lot more things to look at. All right. Let's see. True Health says, loving the labs deep dive. I know. And it's much easier when you guys pull out your actual labs and take notes. And it gives you a reason to ask your doctor for some extra labs. Or, you know what? Maybe you just do it on your own. I don't know. But that's a tough one. But at least you have an idea of where else to look. Let's go back to that protein and globulin, okay? And albumin. So total protein equals albumin plus globulin. If globulin is low and total protein is high, total protein, say it's greater than 7.5, but the globulin is low, it could indicate that you're a little dehydrated, okay? Now, what if that little bit of dehydration was masking low stomach acid, right? Remember the connection. If you have low stomach acid, meaning you're more alkaline, even if you're eating protein, you're not absorbing it. It needs a certain pH in the stomach. Your doctor could say, oh, you're a little dehydrated. Let's increase your water intake. And you say, gosh, I mean, how much more should I drink? Should I drink a gallon of water? No, you shouldn't. But if they just look and say, yeah, you're a little dehydrated, but that dehydration is actually a shift in intracellular and extracellular fluid. And it could simply be, hey, I am not absorbing my protein. I have low stomach acid. Now, is that a reason to go take a hydrochloric acid supplement? Not necessarily. Then I start digging deep on why is the client's pH higher than normal, higher than 1 to 3. I got to do a deep dive on that. Lots to look at. What if you have a high B6? So, and I guess, yeah, that scenario would be the same. So I'm trying to tie in this H. pylori, but I think I already talked about it, with a high B6 and a low folate. So if you have a B6 that's kind of elevated and a low folate, that could indicate to me that you might have a fungal overgrowth, okay? The fungus, I guess I didn't get into this, it produces a waste product. The fungus actually has a waste product that it gives off, acetaldehyde. And that acetaldehyde blocks the conversion of B6 into the pyridoxal 5-phosphate, which is the P5P I was talking about earlier. We have a B6 and we have an active B6. You could have all the B6 in the world, but if you're not converting it to the active form, just like if you're not a methylator, you could not be methylating. See, I'm going around in circles and I'm trying to make connections. There's another lab that you could get called MTHFR. It's a gene. 49% of the population do not methylate. They cannot take inactive folate and make active folate, MTHFR. You have usually you will see a low folate and a low B12. And you will see a macrocytosis on your MCV, on your CBC. The complete blood count will show an MCV, in my book, above 90. In other doctors' books, it'll be above 100. But I start looking at a B12 and a folate. And I probably will get a B6, okay? Because if I see that high B6 and a low folate, I'm going, this person doesn't have a methylation problem, or they might, but they have a fungal overgrowth. They might have candida. They might have iron dysregulation. They might have a bacterial or a chronic viral load. And I'll look at the CBC, I'll look at the white blood cell count. All of it ties in. And I'm sorry that I'm being kind of random, but my point being here is simply looking at the reference range on your labs is not doing you justice. We need to look further, okay? We need to look further. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Lynn says, interesting, all of this is making sense. It starts to click when you start reading about it, and you'll say, gosh, Dr. Jensen mentioned, H. pylori, which is a bacteria, and mentioned fungal infections. How does this relate to B vitamins? What about my medicines? What about my acid, my pH in my stomach? Once you start connecting more and more dots, it starts clicking in your head. You can actually it'll pop out on the page. You'll go, MCV is a little high. Okay, I gotta go look at the B12. I gotta look at the B6. I gotta look at the folate. Oh, I better go look at the total protein and globulin and albumin. I better then look at the CBC white blood cell count. Do I have a chronic pathogen going on? Oh yeah, well the person says, yeah, I have been a little tired. Well, is that because the iron is low and you got your hemoglobin is kind of hovering kind of low? Or do you have a chronic pathogen? Do you have a chronic Epstein-Barr, like a mono, and a CMV mono, or an Epstein-Barr virus mono? And you say, oh yeah, I had it when I was a kid, or I was in college and I had that. Well, it doesn't really ever go away. Could you have a flare? And it's just a low-level flare, and your B vitamins will tell a story. Your white blood cell count will tell a story, but no one ever looked. Okay, well, what do you do with that? Well, at least you know that you got a chronic viral infection. Now we got to work on your sleep pattern, your stress pattern, your diet. I'm going to go into your diet and say, what are you eating? Are you eating some standard American crapola diet? Well, yeah, I'm working all the time. We eat out all the time. Yep. And then I'll look at your omega-3 index, and I'll look at your CRP and your SED rate and all these inflammatory markers. I'll look at your homocysteine, and I'll walk backwards. But of course, all of these labs have to be at my disposal. And a lot of times, you guys don't get those labs from your doctor. So yes, I can analyze what you give me, but I might, most likely, ask you to get other labs that could paint a bigger picture for us, all right? And again, I know I've said this before, and I don't want to be contradictory, but anytime we go get labs, anytime we do any scans, anytime you do a diagnostic test, you will get a diagnosis, and it will show up on your progress notes as the impression, the assessment. Assessment is a list of all of your diagnoses. My assessment not only gives the diagnoses, but it'll give a little bit of information on why you had that diagnosis. For instance, hyperlipidemia will be a diagnosis. High lipidemia, high blood cholesterol, blood lipids. And then behind it, I'll say, HDL is low, triglycerides are high, likely indicating insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome. The person also has some elevated blood pressure, likely due to insulin being elevated, and it'll kind of give a little bit of an explanation. And I might say, hey, let's get an NMR, a nuclear magnetic resonance imaging, basically an advanced lipid test. Let's look at your small dense LDLs, your VLDLs. I can tell about your VLDLs really by looking at your triglycerides. If the triglycerides are high, I already know that your VLDLs will be high. Okay, I can just assume they will be high because they carry triglycerides. But what if your LDL is super high? You're maybe not in the 400 plus club, but they're high. Let's say they're 250 or 200, and you're going, are they light and fluffy, or are they small and dense? Context matters. Oh, come on, bud. Come on, jump. Context matters. So we need to be, you can't get it? Come on, let's go. Up. Buddy. Okay, now we got to be calm. I know it's exciting to be on the lab, but we got to be calm. Which labs should we get before our consultation? I'm glad you asked. Here's what you do. I will send you a list of labs if you email me. It costs you nothing. Just email me at ironladydoc@aol.com. IronLadyDoc. Just email me, and I'll send you a pretty good lab list. Now, again, I'm hoping that I didn't talk about a lab and then I didn't put it on the list, but hopefully you guys are taking notes. But I will send you a good lab list that I like to have, okay? Okay. Buckingham says, Eve, I want to give you a shout out for taking your time to provide all of the medical education for us. It is great of you. Well, thank you for acknowledging that. I appreciate that. Jalissa says, my TSH drastically changed from 1.9 to 4.85. Full results. Yep. So we need to look at the T3, which in your case is low. It's 2.6. So it should be 3.3 to 3.5. I would probably get a reverse T3 because it's not there. So I'm assuming that you're having a conversion problem. I don't know. I would need to get, a reverse T3. Your T3 is a little low. Do you need to take labs? I don't know. Is there something else that could be lowering your T3? People who are on a carnivore diets might have a low T3. But again, I would need to look at everything. Do you need a higher T3 if you're carnivore? Maybe not. You're not using as much T3 because you're not eating carbohydrates. The more carbohydrates you have, the T3 is going to be, changed. Also, depending on supplements prior to taking your blood work, biotin is a huge one. It'll mess with your lab results. If you're on biotin for your hair or biotin for your skin and nails or whatever, it'll mess with your thyroid hormones. Okay. Yeah, Virginia is, I don't know how old they are. ANA is positive. Low iron, low D, negative lupus. Sometimes as we age, we can have a positive ANA, and it means pretty much nothing. Now, I'm not saying that's what yours is, Virginia, but as we age, you might have an ANA positive, and then nothing else shows up, and they just go, well. But again, looking at, why is your vitamin D low? Are you absorbing it? Why is your iron low? Is it really low? What's your ferritin? Do you have iron trapping? Is all of your iron, your ferritin's in the normal range, but yet your iron could be trapped in your liver? Well, then I want to get a ceruloplasmin level. I want to get a copper level. I want to get a zinc level. What if your zinc level is really, really high, or it's just on the borderline high. Well, that would tell me that you could have low copper. So I'll get a copper level. If low copper, then ceruloplasmin will be low. If ceruloplasmin is low, then you could have iron trapping. Well, I know all of this stuff that really doctors don't look at, okay? So Virginia's doctor simply put her on NP thyroid. Again, with those labs, I don't know why they would. You just gave me a negative lupus and arthritis specialist, or yeah, you have vitamin D and a low iron, ANA positive, and then they put you on a thyroid. I must have missed something. I don't see your thyroid labs, but okay, let's move on. Yeah, Jalissa, adding some cheat meals here and there could have affected your thyroid numbers for sure. And it would take, it could take 3-4 months for your thyroid to kind of equilibrate. So if you had just done that maybe 1 month and started eating a few carbs or cheat meals here and there, you'll see it in your lipid panel, and you'll also see it in your thyroid panel, okay? No. Okay. Buckingham says some doctors won't even order tests that you ask for. They say you don't have anything to indicate the need for the test. Okay, here's what you do on that, Virginia. And it takes you doing a little homework. Okay, come on. You got to jump up. I'm not going to pick you up again. You got to do it. If you could easily look things up, okay? And what I mean by that is you could get a code for fatigue. It's called an ICD-10 code. You could help your doctor out by giving your diagnoses a code for them. If you have fatigue, you can write that code down. Just say, hey, what is it's called an ICD-10 code. Big capital I, capital C, capital D, okay? The ICD-10-10 code for fatigue, R53 point something, I can't remember. If you have a low hemoglobin, it's on the edge, say it's still kind of normal, right? It could be 12 for a female. And you say, gosh, I'm tired, R53. And low hemoglobin, whatever that code is. Now you can get iron studies, okay? Or if you have, if you did get an iron study and your ferritin level is high, that's an inflammatory marker. So you could say, okay, I got some inflammation. I got a high ferritin level. That could pay for high sensitive CRP, inflammatory marker, or a homocysteine level. All of these, get down. Boy. Okay. Julissa also says, I was taking iodine before my blood results. Well, you had iodine the first time and not the second time. Again, Julissa, let's wait. You sign up for the consultation and let's go over everything instead of reading all of your results here online, okay? Let's let everybody else kind of get an idea of what's going on. How can so how can a 55-year-old woman raise T3 naturally without supplementing T3? Again, maybe you don't need to. I don't know what your diet is, okay? But honestly, if everything turned out okay and you're feeling fine, do we go and check it? Are we treating a number? That's my question. And if you do feel a little off, maybe we got to get an iodine level, okay? Maybe your cholesterol level will tell me a little bit about your thyroid, your elevated cholesterol level. So many things. So if you're feeling fine, Posh, do we go and mess with it? Do we poke a sleeping bear? Yes, I'll look at your labs. Absolutely. And, you know, and try to paint a picture for you. Virginia says the TSH was high, but why? Why was your TSH high? Okay, did they look into that about why your TSH was high? Why is your TSH, why is your thyroid under functioning? Remember, TSH alone, that's not even a thyroid hormone. It's a brain hormone, thyroid stimulating hormone. It's in our brain. It feeds down to our thyroid and tells our thyroid to produce T4. Did you get a T4 level? T4 is inactive. If we strip off an iodine, we get T3. What is your T3 level? Free T4, free T3. If you have a normal T4, but your T3 is a little underactive, meaning it's not 3.0, I would get a reverse T3. If you could be stressed, Habanero, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. That means a lot. So Habanero sent a super sticker to me, and they're worth some points and some money and all of that. Not a lot. It's pennies, but it's pennies I didn't have before. Okay, this is what I do. So I appreciate you guys, the super chats, the super stickers, and I love when you guys, and I know it doesn't help me out, but it does help me out. The buddies of the world, when you add just a buck or two to the live fundraiser for rescue, rehab, and rehome, it means a lot, okay? So it might not be money in my pocket, but in a way, it's money in a pocket that's helping to save dogs from death row. Because Buddy and Tallow, for that matter, before they get shipped out to some different state, those states want to get rid of those dogs in state. But if they're on a kill shelter, which most of them in Oklahoma go to, they have 30 days to find a home. And if 30 days passes, they're killed. They're kill shelters. Now, Tallow and Buddy were taken by Iowa, but they're in Iowa. So my Iowa sister rescue, rehab, and rehome watches these kill shelters in Oklahoma or wherever, they're sister organizations, and they say, okay, the Oklahoma people say, we can't find a home. And then Iowa kind of sucks it up and says, okay, we'll take them. And then they find homes for them. Yeah, we have probably a ton of rescues just in Iowa, but yes, we have people who just adore these dogs and are taking them from other states, and now we take in other states' dogs to try to find homes for them. Yeah, Dr. Jensen took in 2 of them. So yeah, the live fundraiser for rescue, rehab, and rehome. If you guys want a link to that, and you say, hey, I'd like to help them out, doctor, it means a lot to you, it'll mean a lot to me to give a buck or 2, then just email me and I will send you the link. It's sometimes it's hard to find. Okay. Coach says, I've been on levothyroxine, which is T4, the same dose for over 20 years now, and maybe it's working. So you had basically a low T4. So your thyroid, which produces 100% of the T4, so it tells me your thyroid is probably not working. It's not even giving you T4, which can convert to T3. So you're taking exogenous, synthetic T4, because your thyroid isn't producing T4. So that's what we think. I'm hoping for the last 20 years, nobody missed anything and you have a normal thyroid, but you're taking a medication anyway. Coach says, I forgot to take it once and I felt really, really bad, didn't want to get out of bed. That surprises me, Coach, because the T4, if you've been on it for so long, it usually builds up in your body. And honestly, I have had patients take their thyroid dose. Do not do this. This is not I'm not telling you to do this. They will take their thyroid, all 5 or 7 doses on one day. And they've done it for years. They don't have palpitations. They don't have anything. And they've been doing this. When I hear it, my eyeballs get all big and I go, oh, are you sure? Oh yeah, I've been doing it for 15 years. I take all of my thyroid on one day. See, it builds up in your system and then it stays. And as long as they take it at the same time on that day, they don't have any problems. Do I recommend that? No. It's a daily, just take it daily on an empty stomach. Okay? All right. Buddy thinks he's going to help us out. We'll see about that. Yeah, Habanero says, I'm all about saving our doggies. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Buddy. My goodness, I can't talk when you're licking. All right. I know. Okay. Oh, yeah, here's another one. Let's just say the doctor doesn't get a full thyroid panel. How can you tell? One of the things you could tell that your thyroid might not be doing very well is to look at your cholesterol panel. Yeah, I know. All of this is complicated. You mean it's not just a simple cholesterol problem? It could be my thyroid? Yes. It could simply be your thyroid, and it's causing elevation of your lipids, your cholesterol panel. But usually, okay, you're going to get back down. You don't want to sit. Okay. Those are good questions, you guys. I like those questions. What else do I have for... I want to make sure I went over everything. Yeah. You know, looking at electrolytes is important as well. And I know I've talked to you about the electrolytes, sodium, potassium chloride, your CO2. We have optimal ranges where I like those. For instance, with a CO2, I like a level between 24 and 26. Most doctors do not have a narrow range. They will be all over the place because they'll say, oh, you're not metabolic acidosis or metabolic alkalosis. You look just fine. You're doing fine. And they'll kind of leave that CO2 alone. I will also look at, your potassium level. Now, potassium normally likes to be inside the cell and sodium likes to be outside the cell. And if I'm going to take you back in chemistry, but potassium is a positive ion. It has a positive ion, meaning it's a 1. Sodium is a 1+, potassium is a 1+. So they like to equal, well, they don't really equal out, but potassium likes to be inside the cell, sodium outside the cell. And we have this thing called a sodium-potassium pump. So for every 3 sodiums that exit a cell, it will let in 2 potassiums. You would think that they would be equal, but they're not, even though they have a 1+ charge on them. So when I look at your potassium and say it's a little low, I'm going to look at your calcium level. If your calcium is high, what's high? My cutoff is 10.0. If I have a calcium that is 10.0 or above, I'm going to look into that with a parathyroid hormone, a PTH, an intact PTH, because I'm going to look for something going on with your parathyroid, around your thyroid, little glands around your thyroid. I'm going to look at that. If potassium is low, I'm going to look at your sodium level. Is your sodium level a little high? Remember, they need to be, come on up here, jump up, jump up, jump, jump. They need to be in their, like sodium likes to be outside, potassium likes to be inside. I know. Are you going to do this again? Come on. Oh, jeez. You bumped your head. Are you okay? Are you okay? Yep, you're okay. Phew. Okay. Low potassium, I'm going to look to the calcium level. I'm going to look to your sodium level. Low potassium could be a result from high sodium, high calcium. What about magnesium? Yeah, if magnesium is low, it could also indicate a low potassium. They ride together. I'm going to look, what medicines are you on? Are you on a diuretic? Are you on Lasix or furosemide? Are you on hydrochlorothiazide? Are you on a potassium-sparing diuretic like aldosterone? Aldosterone, spironolactone is the other name. Are you on a potassium-sparing diuretic? Are you on an ACE inhibitor or an ARB? Those are blood pressure medicines. ACE inhibitor or ARB. They could cause a retention of potassium. So high potassium, you might see high magnesium and low calcium and low sodium. Those are usually from potassium-sparing diuretics or medications. Zinc. That's one of the things I like you guys to get. If zinc is high, copper is going to be low. And then we go into that whole thing about iron trapping. Iron trapping in your liver or in organs. Could you have iron trapping in your thyroid? Absolutely. It can retain, it can get trapped in a lot of organs, but it just seems that the thyroid is a good place to start looking for, where is my iron? My ferritin is in the normal range. I'll look at your TIBC and your transferrin. All of those things will indicate, where is that iron? Where is it located? Okay. All right. Now don't fall over. Don't fall over. Yeah, coach, isn't your body amazing? So you know when and how to take that thyroid hormone. Okay. Coach says my triglyceride number was in the 1400s. Yep, that is high. That is high, and you need to look into that. You might have triglycerides that high. There is an enzyme, I believe it's lipoprotein lipase, LPL. Don't quote me on this. I would, and it's very expensive if I recall, I would get a lipoprotein lipase level. You could have low level, so a low enzyme level, and it could cause elevation of triglycerides. Wow. Yeah, I've never seen one that high before, but I would have to definitely look into it. Habanero, a CO2, you want it between 24 and 26, okay? Yeah. With that, so CO2 is low, anion gap is high. So it's a metabolic acidosis. Has to be a metabolic acidosis with that look. That one I would have to study on. Living for Jesus says, I'm allergic to spironolactone. What is your allergy to that? Broke out in hives all over after taking it. So I wonder which part of, it could be the way it was made, the dyes. You could be allergic. Did you try different brands or just one brand? Does hypothyroidism cause a traffic jam? It absolutely does, okay? And it will show. Could you have, I would check your triglyceride, which indicates your VLDL. If you have a lot of triglyceride, in my book, 100 or more, you're going to have a high triglycerides, so high VLDL. When your liver is packaging up all of these triglycerides, it packages them up in a VLDL. Inside the liver, it packages up all of these triglycerides into a VLDL, and then it sends that VLDL out into the bloodstream, okay? And then that VLDL dumps off cargo, the triglycerides, and to the tissues, wherever it needs energy. So it dumps, that VLDL will dump off triglycerides to muscles, to other cells that need energy, okay? If those cells that you think need energy are already full, then the VLDLs have nowhere to dump the energy. So you have a lot of VLDLs in your bloodstream, and they start bumping into LDLs. The VLDLs will have a traffic jam because the LDLs can't get back to the liver. The LDLs need to dump off their cargo and go back to the liver. Well, the liver is not taking those LDLs back for some reason, okay? And we would have to look deeper into that. So the LDLs keep circling the house, because the home is the liver, either to be sent out into a bowel movement or recycled. So these LDLs are just circling the home, and they have a tendency to bump into the VLDLs if the VLDLs are high. When that occurs, there is an enzyme called CTEP, CTEP, and that activates the exchange of components in the VLDL, the triglycerides, to dump into LDLs. That is not good. An LDL is not supposed to carry triglycerides. The VLDL carries triglycerides and empties out to tissues in the periphery. But if the VLDL is still full of triglycerides, it'll bump into, cause a collision into an LDL, and then an enzyme causes you take my products out of, the VLDL is going to give triglycerides to the LDL, okay? And then another enzyme comes around called hepatic lipase and steals the cholesterol out of that LDL, all right? And it does the same thing to an HDL. That's why you can have a dysfunctional high level of HDLs. You can have high trigs and high HDLs, and I'll tell you what, your HDLs are not healthy. That they're just not healthy. And the doctor a long time ago will say, oh, high HDL, that's good guy, and he's protective. No, these HDLs are not protective. They are unhealthy. They're likely small and dense, and they are naughty little HDLs, okay? It all is in context, but if that VLDL is bumping into the LDL and exchanging its triglycerides into that LDL, now that LDL can get oxidized. He can get damaged, and everything starts getting stripped. He's almost like he's naked, and he's full of this little triglyceride. He has no protection of cholesterol because he gave it away back to the VLDL, okay? So they exchange components, basically. The VLDL gives the LDL the triglycerides, and the LDL gives its cholesterol back to the VLDL. It's kind of a really weird setup. And, Big Pharma has taken advantage of this. And they're saying, let's just give you a CTEP inhibitor. We're going to inhibit that CTEP enzyme from causing the cargo from the VLDL to go to the LDL so we don't get small, dense LDLs. Well, why don't we just stop the VLDLs? Why do we have to give you a medicine? And for the most part, except for Coach, where I don't know what is going on with their high triglycerides, but for the average person, they're eating a ton of crap. They're eating processed foods, seed oils, and sugars. So that raises blood sugar, and then the liver needs to process all of that sugar, and it makes triglycerides. Fats, 3 fatty acids to 1 glycerol backbone would be 1 triglyceride. So that liver has to deal with those triglycerides. If it can't deal with any more fat, you keep eating carbohydrates, That carbohydrates makes more triglycerides. Your liver is trying to package all of those triglycerides into a VLDL to send it out into the bloodstream. There's going to be traffic jams, and your liver is going to continuously get fatty. Where's the triglycerides going to go? Okay? All that sugar raises insulin, and insulin, its job is to push all of that sugar into cells. Try to anyway. And once the external cells, the peripheral cells, like your fat cells all over your body, are full, it's going to cause fatty liver. Then fatty liver is going to squeeze and choke off the liver, and it can't do its job. It's one big giant mess just because of our diet. Yeah. Yes. I thank you, buddy. The doctor just wanted to put you on. So coach has a 1400 triglyceride level, and his doctor, I'm guessing, no, is it Hussein, the doctor wants to put Hussein on atorvastatin and icosapent. What is the other name for that? I don't know. Atorvastatin does nothing, really, to lower triglycerides. Atorvastatin blocks the production of cholesterol in the liver. Atorvastatin blocks the mevalonate pathway, which is basically the cholesterol pathway. Atorvastatin is a fat-soluble. Anyway, atorvastatin crosses the blood-brain barrier. Okay? So atorvastatin is one of those that cross the blood-brain barrier, whereas rosuvastatin or pitavastatin, they do not. Pravastatin does not. So when you take certain statins, not only is it blocking the mevalonate pathway in your liver, it's also blocking the mevalonate pathway in your brain. If your brain can't make its own cholesterol, we have a problem, okay? And that's called dementia or Parkinson's or MS or whatever our body needs cholesterol for, which is everything. All cell membranes, the myelin sheath, the coating around your neurons or around the nerve cord. You need insulation. It's like when you plug in, so you got this plug, this black coating around the cord is like a myelin sheath. Well, if you block production of cholesterol and fats, you can't make a myelin sheath. And so it is common to get neurodegenerative disorders, Parkinson's, dementia, Alzheimer's, MS, things where it destroys your myelin sheath. So cholesterol is a good thing, right? But we need to look further and say, hey, what else is going on? It's not just all about, it's not about saying, oh, we're just going to ignore high cholesterol, high LDL, high HDL, we're not going to ignore it. We got to look further. And a lot of times that takes looking at advanced lipid tests. But to answer Coach's question or to comment on Coach's question, they gave him atorvastatin, which really doesn't lower triglycerides that much, okay? If any. Again, I don't know what the icosapent is. I don't know. Yeah, if you take sodium bicarb, you're actually going to lower your stomach, raise your stomach acidity. So you're going to by taking a bicarb, you're going to increase the pH of your stomach. And when you do that and it goes over 3, now you're not going to be able to absorb all of positively charged minerals and ions. So anything that has a positive charge, and we went over that, calcium, magnesium, zinc, iron, selenium, you can't absorb your amino acids. So taking a bicarb is not in our best interest on a regular basis. We got to figure out what is it that's the cause of the low CO2 and the anion gap. What is the best diet after 59? Well, I guess the same diet for a 29-year-old or a 19-year-old. No processed foods, no seed oils, no sugars. That is the best diet. Coach says you could do an entire show on my health. It's pretty scary, but I was told I wouldn't have any health problems after 35. I don't know what that means. So take the medicines and you never have a problem? Really? Habanero comments to the 59-year-old, don't remember, San Thin. Habanero says the best diet year-round, no matter what age you are, is a carnivore diet, hands down, no questions about it. Okay. Does the carnivore diet include does it include bone broth? Does it include organs? If a person is just following a carnivore diet and they're only eating beef, just eating steaks and ground beef and eggs and butter, not really any fish, no sardines, no real bone broth. They're not eating collagen or tendons or anything like that. They're just kind of sticking to the ground beef, red meat, steak kind of a deal with some eggs and some butter, and they're doing fine until they're not. What do I mean? They're eating a ton of methionine. This is why context matters, Habanero. If you don't specify what a carnivore diet is, and the person just goes and eats some ground beef and eggs and butter every single day, they're going to be eating a ton of methionine. Methionine is very high in red meat, and it will be so high that they won't have enough glycine to neutralize it. Where do we get glycine? From the collagen, from the tendons and the bones and all of that, bone broth. We need glycine, probably about 12 grams a day. Our body can make 3. We hope to get it in our diet. But if we don't, and you increase the amount of ground beef you're eating or steak, you're going to be very high in methionine. And it will use up all of your glycine. And that glycine is used, for example, during illnesses, during recovery, muscles, and joint health. What about your kidneys? Well, the kidneys need glycine in order to excrete uric acid. So you could see an elevated uric acid level, and they'll say, oh, you need to stop that carnivore diet. You got high uric acid. And they'll say, you got gout. No, your kidneys aren't excreting it. You're eating a ton of meat. It's not the meat part that is the problem and all the protein. No, it's the too much methionine and not enough glycine that caused your problem. In addition, all of that meat is very high in zinc. Guess what it doesn't have enough of? Copper. What's going to happen to your thyroid? What's going to happen to your mitochondria that don't have the cofactors to make ATP? Well, you might start noticing your body temperature going down, cold all the time, hairs falling out, need copper. All of these things, you think you're doing a good thing, and I'm not saying you're not, but your diet is very restricting. You say, well, I'm carnivore. At least I don't have diabetes. Okay, but you got mineral deficiencies. You got a glycine deficiency. You wonder why you got joint aches and pains. You wonder why you're cold all the time. You wonder why your hair's falling out. You wonder why your thyroid is having problems. Glycine. You wonder why your homocysteine level went up. Too much methionine. Now you got homocysteine sitting in your body, and that is like sandpaper to the lining of your arteries. If your homocysteine is over 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there, you got a basically sandpaper chemical rubbing up against your artery lining, causing inflammation and irritation, spurring on plaque formation, and elevates your CRP in the meantime. and maybe even your LPPLA2 level. Lots could be going on. So that's why I never tell somebody just say, oh, go eat carnivore. Just eat a carnivore diet. I mean, I might believe in a carnivore diet. Don't get me wrong. But a carnivore diet, it basically means I'm eating nose to tail. I'm eating organs. I'm drinking the blood. I'm eating, I'm getting tendons and collagen and all of that. I'm getting all of that. So I can get my glycine and I can keep my zinc, but not too much. I need copper. Where do you get copper? What part of that animal do you get copper from? Or do we need another animal? Okay? Again, context matters. And I don't want, habanero, I don't want you just to go, oh, just eat a carnivore diet. And somebody goes, oh, I'm going to eat carnivore. All I'm going to do is eat, steak, salt and water. Well, again, you're going to be fine for the first few years until you won't. Same with a vegan who restricts carnitine and creatine and carnosine and leucine and essential fatty acids. Like they only have ALA. And they're going to rely on their body to convert ALA to DHA and EPA? It's not possible. They have to take some sort of algae oil or something to get EPA and DHA because they cannot convert the ALA into DHA and EPA. The conversion is probably 1% or less. Yeah, habanero says carnivore diet includes all animal parts for habanero, but you didn't specify that. People were listening to habanero say, just eat a carnivore diet. And in their eyes, it's steak and butter and eggs. And then they're doing good and they feel like $1 million, but then they continue to get into now things are starting to fall apart. They just don't feel well. They can't really explain it. We better get some labs. Something's going on. Okay. Any questions? Jante sent a request to be in your video. I don't accept any, unless it's a guest speaker, then I don't do guests on. So, but thanks for asking. Anonymous says, how does a B12 injection affect my liver? I've needed a B12 injection for about 20 years. Why? You feel an energy crash coming on? Did you ever get all of your labs? Again, I don't just go treating people with B12. I want to know why. And I would have to look up on what B12 injections are doing to your liver. Tia says, good morning. This is so helpful. You have a high ALP and a high GGT. A high ALP and a high GGT, those are liver enzymes. And right there tells me that your liver is struggling. It's choking on fat. And your ducts are very inflamed and they can't push the sludge through. So you have sludge trying to pass through ducts, like the common bile duct, a duct. You can't get the sludge through it. You likely have fatty liver, okay? And this is where I might, so let's just say Tia says, okay, I really want to make some changes. Okay, we got to carb restrict. Well, do I have to fat restrict? You have to restrict some types of fats, yes. And this might be the place where we might give some tudka to thin out the secretion, thin out the bile so it can flow better. It's sludge. It's like mud when it needs to be dirty brown water, okay? And again, I've done that before where I tried to help them along heal that, to get that sludge out of there and get it flowing again for a short period of time. Might take 2 weeks, something like that. but we're always monitoring, okay? You can monitor that ALP, elk phos, and the GGT, but those are classic, and I'm guessing that your ALT is also greater than 20. Okay. Yuli says, how many years does it take for these neurological symptoms to develop with these statins? Don't MDs know this? No wonder there is dementia on the rise, because every other person is on a statin, right? And we need cholesterol for our brain. How long does it take? Well, from a personal, my dad, it took 30 years for them to notice, for him to notice. But could we have checked earlier than that? Are there indications that doctors missed that could have caught my dad's progressive supranuclear palsy, a neurodegenerative disorder similar to Parkinson's? Could we have helped my dad? Well, my dad was on a low-fat diet. He did not eat any meat. He was told to give it up. He boiled his chicken, he ate tuna fish, and he ate sugar-free ice cream and bran flakes, rice, beans. Yeah, I mentioned chicken. That was it. He didn't eat any fat because they told him fat was bad. So if you don't eat any fat, in order for my dad not to feel hungry, he's going to continue eating all day long carbohydrates. Now, luckily, my dad was a runner and he was an ectomorph and he was maybe $145 his whole life, okay? He lifted weights, but he also ran a lot of miles. Therefore, he had coronary artery disease. I could go down that rabbit hole, and I have before. But if we don't have fat in our diet and we're blocking cholesterol production in the liver, I mean, imagine, what if it only take you 15 years or 10 years? Everybody's different. Their fat requirements are different. But again, I think my dad was probably showing symptoms a lot earlier than that. Can I pinpoint it? No, I can't. I would love to just chalk it all up to his statin that he took for 45 years because the doctor said he had high cholesterol. I was that doctor too, okay? I was bamboozled by the buffoonery as well. All I saw, I followed standard of care. LDL above 130, here's your statin. I did it. I was that doctor, okay? But now I know what I know, and I'm going to look in, do you really have a problem with your cholesterol? Do you have simply a problem with the LDL receptor on the liver? Or do you have an overproduction problem? Or do you have an overabsorption problem where you're not getting your excess LDL out into your bowel movement? Why? Oh, we got to look into that. We got to look at your thyroid. Your thyroid might be off, and I don't even know that they ever checked my dad's thyroid. What if he had a thyroid problem and that elevated his cholesterol? But instead, he just stayed on this cholesterol medicine, lowered it to 70, his LDL, and in the meantime, they congratulated him on his 10 miles a day running for the last 45 years or 50 years or whatever it was. And so, oh, good job. And you're on a low-fat diet. You're eating whole foods except for sugar-free ice cream and bran flakes. Yeah, because they told me I needed fiber. So he's adding flax and he's adding all of this fiber to his thing. And that's not doing anything. Not doing a thing. Decreasing the absorption of all of his vitamins and minerals, decreasing the absorption of his amino acids, but he really wasn't getting that very many anyway because he wasn't eating very much protein because he didn't know what to eat unless it was chicken. And he maybe had chicken once a day. Well, what about the other meals? Carbohydrates, oatmeal and bagels for breakfast. Lunch, he would have a shake of that sugar-free ice cream and some bran and some flax oil and whatever he put in there, some blueberries, all carbs. No fat, no fat. Boiled his chicken. I'm the one who told him to boil his chicken. Dad, boil your chicken. Get all that fat out. It's bad. It's poisonous. Bamboozled by the buffoonery. Do doctors or do MDs know this? No, they've actually been taught. We've actually been taught that statins are anti-inflammatory and should help with your dementia. I mean, well, if that was the case, then we wouldn't see any dementia because everybody's on statins. But see, you can't even get a doctor to think logically. They're so wrapped up into the bamboozled buffoonery that they can't think outside of their paper bag that they have over their head. I know, because I was one of them. I must have had 5 patients that probably slapped me in the head saying how dumb I was. And finally, it got me to start listening to YouTube podcasts of other doctors who were outside of the standard of care, right? And then I started diving deep into all of the other things on a lab test that we never even look at. Yep, it's in the reference range. I didn't even know what a reference range was. I thought it was normal. Oh, you're normal. No, you're just as sick as everybody else that comes into the lab. It's measuring an average population. In the average population today, yep, 80% are sick. Not you guys. You're the 20% that's awesome. Yeah, Tia says I do have fatty liver. Yep, my GGT is high, my ALK phos is high, you got sludge, you have fatty liver, your ALT is high, you probably got an ultrasound that showed you have fatty liver, and you go, yeah, where do you get TUDCA? TUDCA, TUDCA, it's on Amazon. But you don't, Tia, you don't just go taking TUDCA. You have to change your diet too. Go on a carb restriction. Help that liver help itself. The TUDCA is going to be temporary. But if you continue to eat the crap, the fatty liver doesn't go away. Crapola. Okay. So, Lynn, okay. So your B12 level, what is your B12 level? Help me out. What was your B12 level? Can liver sludge untreated contribute to brain fog? Everything backs up. Everything backs up. You got stuff, toxins in your body that can't get out in your bowel movement. Could that cause brain fog? Absolutely. There's other things that you have brain fog for, and it's called insulin resistance in your brain. You told me that you have fatty liver, right? That means you have high insulin. High insulin, over time causes insulin resistance, not just in the periphery of your tissues, but in your brain as well. So your brain is insulin resistant. It can't even get the sugar, the little bit of sugar that it needs, okay? Your body needs about 5 to 6 grams of sugar, glucose, in your blood at any one time. It's a teaspoon. And if we have too much carbohydrate, too much glucose, it takes more and more insulin to drive that home, drive it into cells. The cells are shutting down. They say, I'm full. I'm going to burst. It's like Thanksgiving dinner. They don't want any more. Well, if you shut that down and you become insulin resistant, now what is the brain going to do? Right. You're going to try to give it more carbohydrates because you have brain fog. Oh, I got brain fog. I'm going to eat something. I must be low in sugar. Well, you kind of are. It's so high, and your insulin is so high, but it can't get into the cells because the cells are resistant. Your brain cells are resistant. You're fogged over. Could it be related to the liver as well? Absolutely. But hey. Okay. Can liver sludge contribute to high cholesterol? Yes. Why? Because you're eating a bunch of carbohydrates that the liver needs to package up in VLDL. It's got sludge and it's got fatty liver, so it doesn't do its job appropriately. So it can't even really package up the VLDLs because there's nowhere to send the energy. So the energy keeps storing around the liver within the liver. So the liver is basically choking, okay? Hard hitter, I suggest that you probably schedule a consultation. You can sign up for a consultation by emailing me at ironladydoc@aol.com. Thank you. Okay. Coach says, is there any way to reverse peripheral neuropathy? So basically we want to get another myelin, want to get more myelin sheath. I don't know what is the cause of your neuropathy. You're taking gabapentin, which does not heal it. Could it be the B12 deficiency? Could it be B6? Are you on other medications that is causing a peripheral neuropathy? Lots could be going on. Tia says, you're so right, but what do you eat for the hunger? You're hungry. Okay, let's go through why you're hungry. When a low carb, high or moderate protein, high fat, let's just say a low carb person eats, they're eating proteins and fats and very low, less than 20 or zero carbs. Their curve looks like a sine wave, just a barrel sine wave. So you eat and your blood sugar goes up a little and then it's gradual and comes back down. It takes just a little bit of insulin to keep those blood sugars, and it's just a shallow little sine curve, okay? Little bump in the road, okay? But when a person eats carbohydrates, they eat and they spike glucose, and then it shoots back down, because as you spike blood sugar, we get our pancreas to release insulin. Insulin will drop that blood sugar back down, and it's rapid. It's not like a smooth curve. It's a up and down, okay? And it's not really that it's going down so much. It's just enough that the insulin is so high that it dropped your blood sugar that you get hungry again. So you eat, then your blood sugar spikes, and then it blasts down. Then it spikes and blasts down, spikes, it just all day long. That's what people do. They'll be eating at their desk during the day. Oh, I'm just hungry. You are not really hungry. It's not physiologic. You are basically in a pattern of insulin resistance. You are eating because your brain is low in sugar. It's insulin resistant. You're actually doing it to yourself. You would be best off just not eating, okay? And you have to withstand the symptoms of going carnivore or going low carb keto. Now, I have been very successful adding exogenous ketones initially for the first few weeks of a person who goes from a standard crapola diet to a ketogenic diet. And we add in some beta hydroxybutyrate, and those ketones feed the brain while you are lowering its addiction to sugar and your other cells as well. I've been very successful with that by just adding in some BHB, some beta hydroxybutyrate, some exogenous ketones in a drink or whatever. And that helps feed the brain its energy, feeds the heart, feeds the kidneys, feeds every organ. Ketones are a preferred energy source over glucose. Right. Lynn says, switching to high fat, high protein diet, did the cravings go away? Because the blood sugar is staying consistent. The insulin is staying consistent. It's not this up and down like spikes. It's just smooth little waves, tiny little ripples in the water instead of whitecaps on the ocean. Okay. Yes, Tia asks, do ketones affect heart failure? They do, in a good way. It improves cardiac output. It improves stroke volume. It keeps your electrical system working well, trying to avoid atrial fibrillation. You have atrial fibrillation likely because over time and so much pressure, you've ruined your pacemaker cells. The SA node is not well. These are the type of people who will need a pacemaker, and because they got AFib or they got VFib or VTAC, they need now a defibrillator and a pacemaker because they've had maybe high blood pressure all along. Their heart is stretched. The atrium, the right atrium, gets all stretched out, and the electrical system goes bad. So ketones absolutely are the bomb for stroke volume and cardiac output. It's a great source of energy for your heart and your brain. Coach says you were on phenylfibrate. I'm not going to go there with trying to fix everybody's labs on here, but you did mention something that I want to comment on. Phenylfibrate is a medication used for high triglycerides. It, in all likelihood, should not be used with a statin because it can increase muscle aches and pains due to a deficiency of CoQ10, among other things, vitamin D, vitamin K, all of these things that we're blocking on a mevalonate pathway, okay? So in all reality, they should not be on a combination of a phenylfibrate and a statin, like atorvastatin or any other statin. They should usually, most doctors avoid that combination. Now, back in the day, we used that combination. Now, coach says, well, just take niacin instead of phenylfibrate. Again, I can't recommend that either, all right? And the reason being is because niacin will initially raise triglycerides. Now, what could be a better option? One, I would check an RBC omega-3 index, a red blood cell omega-3 index. I want to see where it is at. In comparison, that will tell me how many omega-6s I have. So I want an omega-3 to omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. If that 6-to-3 ratio is elevated, that tells me that my body is very inflamed. I might simply need to get my triglycerides down by increasing omega-3. Do I do the EPA or the DHA or a combination? I don't know. What are your other cholesterol numbers? Is your LDL really, really high? If it is, you might want to avoid a DHA omega-3, even though it's great for your brain, but you have inflammation and high LDLs, and DHA decreases LDL receptors on the liver. If you have less doors on your liver, the LDL can't get back in. There's not enough doors, too many LDLs. Now the LDLs will bump into the VLDLs, and now you got small, dense LDLs as the result. Lots going on. I'm not a big, humongous believer on niacin right now. I would want to look further into it, but eating sardines, getting natural sources of omega-3s from food rather than supplements. If you're on an omega-3 supplement, I would definitely get the triglyceride form of the omega-3s. But again, I would want an RBC omega-3 index. I really would. I would start there. I want to know what's going on. Yeah, hard hitter without looking at all of your labs. It's going to be hard to see. You know, you might have fatty liver. Yeah, good answer, coach. None of us, you don't know his history or his ailments, and neither do I. So we're going to leave it for hard hitter to see their doctor or to sign up for a consultation. Yeah, I am a DO. I went to a DO, an osteopathic medical school, and I took an MD residency. So I took an MD family practice residency, and I took MD boards. It's not very common, but in Des Moines, if we want to stay in Des Moines, a lot of us went to the osteopathic medical school, got our DO certification. We're a doctor, but then there's probably in my class alone, my residency class, there were 5 of us who actually went to DO school, medical school, and took an MD family practice residency because we wanted to stay in Des Moines. Okay. And so I took an MD family practice residency, and I ended up taking MD boards. Because I hadn't had any training in OMM or OMT, I'm not going to take DO boards and try to pass them when I'm leaning more toward everything being taught from an MD perspective. Even though the curriculum is exactly the same, except for DOs do osteopathic manipulative treatment. We learn OMM, osteopathic manipulative medicine. But if you don't practice it and you don't study it, why would you want to be tested on it? So I wasn't going to go by any means. I'm not doing any OMT or OMM anymore. I'm not doing any of those things except for with my friends. I'm not going to take a DO board because I hadn't really been, I kind of left that in the dust. No, the curriculum for medical school is exactly the same, other than that OMM, the exact same. Okay. So I just have a little bit of a combination. I'm still licensed. I would be licensed as a DO, but again, my board certification is as an MD, and I took an MD residency. I don't know if that answers your question, but hopefully it does. Okay. Mary says, I have very high cholesterol levels, but less than 1 triglycerides. And so you must be from the UK. I'm not sure, because we don't, in America, those numbers aren't, I can't imagine you would have a triglyceride of less than 1 unless it's another metric that you're measuring. Mary says, I have very low HSCRP. I don't know what that is. I don't know what very low is. Is it less than 1? I take Rosita fish oil supplements every day. Is that okay? I don't know what it is. I'm sorry. I don't know what Rosita. Yes, from the UK. So your numbers, you would have to convert them to America, USA metrics. I don't know what a 1 triglyceride level is in America. I don't know, what your cholesterol is. Sorry, I just don't know that. Okay. So you would have to convert that for me, Mary, from UK, USA metrics. Coach says, what kind of vitamins should someone take out of caution? None. Get your levels, make sure you need what you're taking, because let's just say you started taking zinc and vitamin D and some NAD or whatever, and you go, well, that helps my immune system. Well, at the same time, you're taking this vitamin D and this zinc in doses that we don't know if we need, which now you're going to cause copper problems. Did you check a copper level? Well, no. I didn't even check a vitamin D or a zinc level. Then we don't know if you need it, and you could be causing problems. When you take zinc, you're going to lower copper. And then you need copper, or else your thyroid's not going to work. Your hair's not going to grow. Your mitochondria need copper in order to produce ATP. I can't, there is no out of abundant caution. Can you take too much magnesium? If you do, you'll get diarrhea. Okay? But again, if you take too much magnesium, you better be watching your potassium level. Okay? I know, Coach. I know, not even in my olden days did I pay attention to zinc and copper. I just didn't. Those were not standard of care to order. And if someone comes in and say, I just don't feel good, I get their general labs. I'll get a CBC, and I'll get a CMP, and then I'll get a TSH, and we'll call it good because that could be standard of care right there. And they'll say, oh, everything's in the reference range. Again, you're normal. But doctor, I just don't feel good. I'm tired all the time. Get more sleep. I sleep 8 hours every night. Well, exercise. Oh, I don't have time. I'm working 3 jobs. Well, I'm sorry. You better exercise. I mean, that's the attitude that doctors have. I mean, they'll go through these simple things like, well, you better improve your diet. Well, what does that mean? Well, just improve it. Like improve the amount of I eat, improve it. Is it a certain color? I mean, what does that mean? Those are the things that doctors say. Well, just go exercise. Well, what should I do? Should I run a marathon? Train for a marathon? Yeah, it sounds good. Well, didn't my calcium score, wasn't it high before? Well, yeah, but if you run, it'll be better. No. Endurance activities increase plaquing in your coronary arteries because of the pressure and the volume of blood that you're pumping. So many things, you guys. I mean, I could walk through thousands of scenarios. Pet says, I over-exercised from that advice and it wrecked me. I don't know how it wrecked you, but I can only speak for my dad. It wrecked him. Now, he had not some doctor telling him to exercise. He had a burning passion to run. My dad, I remember talking to him, his sport was cross country. He started when he was in junior high, running cross country. He loved it. He loved the endorphins. He loved everything about it. He couldn't wait to leave the office at the noon hour to go run home, make a shake, and get back to work. His world revolved around us, of course, but it was work, running, kids, back and do the same thing again. And, maybe all of that in combination led to my dad's coronary artery disease, led to his AFib, led to needing a blood thinner, led to the progressive supranuclear palsy from the statins because they told him his cholesterol was too high. This was before they even did the angiogram. My dad was running and he had never really done any other tests, just that cholesterol test. He's on a statin. He comes into the locker room after his outside run and passes out. And they saved his life. He was in VFib or something like that. He didn't want to take a helicopter. He was too scared. So they ambulanced him 3.5 hours to Des Moines from Northwest Iowa to the middle of Iowa. And that guy in the locker room saved his life. So then they do an angiogram, and he's got 5 vessels completely blocked. Were they completely blocked? Or is that how they just look when you do the angiogram? Because my dad had if they were completely blocked, wouldn't you think there would be some death of the muscle, not getting any blood? There was no dead parts of the heart. All the muscle was preserved. So that means there's blood flow. So you just go and angiogrammed 5 vessels. You cabbaged them. Took a big vein out of his leg and slit his chest open. Did he need it? Maybe not. What he did need was to stop running, but they put a pacemaker in. Why? Because his pacemaker cells were all done for. Why? Because his atrium was constantly being stretched over however many years from junior high to his mid-50s or whatever age he was, 57 or something like that. I can't remember. So 40-some years of running stretched out his right atrium, damaged his pacemaker cells in the SA node, and his rhythm. He had an electrical problem. The running actually helped his plumbing system, but since they found the vessels on the angiogram, they couldn't leave it. They had to. Legally, they looked, made a diagnosis, had to fix it, even though there was no death of the heart. He had perfect blood flow. So many things, you guys. No, I'm not a cardiologist, but I'm just using my logical brain. You guys are not doctors, and you're using your logical brains. You probably know more than a doctor, to be perfectly honest. They only know what they've been fed with a spoon for years. Coach says, what do you think about GLPs? I can tell you that Ozempic is one of the things I don't look forward to taking. Well, then don't take it, Coach. What is your thoughts on a GLP? Why do you not want to take it? Why don't you look forward to taking it? Why would you want to look forward to taking it? I don't know. So alcohol is a number one cause of AFib? I don't think so. Not the number one cause. Could it be a contributing factor for AFib? Yeah. But why? What is it doing to volume and pressure in the blood vessels and in the heart? What is it doing? What is the alcohol doing? So is it a number one cause? Doubtful. Doubtful. A cause? Probable. I don't like the side effects, says Coach. I have to take it along with metformin and insulin. Why, Coach? Why do you have to take it? Nobody has to take anything. And why are you on metformin and insulin? Are you a type 1 or a type 2? I'm guessing you're a type 2 who's now insulin dependent, which you're really not. You have too much insulin if you're a type 2. If you're on metformin, they would never get metformin to a type 1. So the definition of type 2 diabetes is hyperinsulinemia. You don't give more insulin to a person who already has insulin. So Coach, they're poisoning you. They can't control your blood sugars with metformin, so they're going to give you more insulin to make you more insulin resistant. High insulinemia. You're giving more poison, causing inflammation. Insulin is inflammatory, along with the blood sugar. The answer would be get rid of the things that raise blood sugar that require metformin and insulin. In your case, which you don't, you have way too much. You're just adding the toxins by mouth, so they'll give you another toxin to continuously making it worse. Because you can't give yourself enough insulin. Your cells don't want any more energy. They are full. So if they are full, they're not going to take in any more glucose. So glucose is going to go higher and higher and higher. Their answer, give you more insulin. It doesn't matter how much insulin you have. The cells don't want it. They are going to burst. They will burst. Your fat cells will get so big, they will lose their blood supply. They will start leaking triglycerides, so your triglyceride level goes up, cytokines, inflammatory markers, and then you end up having a heart attack. What is the number one cause of a heart attack? Diabetes. Habanero, if you all want to learn about copper, then start listening to Morley Robbins. He'll explain it to you. I agree. He's a guru. Okay, all right. Yuli says, if one is supplementing, that means if one, and I'm asking for a friend, is supplementing a multivitamin, why? Why do you need a multivitamin? And omega-3, would you recommend to stop taking them prior to getting a blood test? How long prior? I would stop them for a month or two. Get them out of your system, and no one needs a multivitamin. No one. That won't be forever. Can you take copper if you have microcytic anemia? What would be the reason that you would need copper? Did you get a copper level? Did you get a zinc level? Did you get a ceruloplasmin level? Did you get an iron studies? Did you get an iron transferrin saturation level? Did you get a TIBC? I don't know enough, Tia. Why do you have microcytic anemia? Why are you have small red blood cells? Why are your red blood cells unhealthy? Why are they tiny? Well, they told me I need iron. Did they get a ferritin, a transferrin, a TIBC? Maybe you don't need iron. Maybe your iron is stuck, trapped. Your hepcidin level is high. Your ceruloplasmin is low. Your copper level is low. Your zinc level is high. I don't know why you have microcytic anemia, but would you just go take copper for it? I don't know. Is your copper level low? And if it is low, then your ceruloplasmin would be low, and then your iron would be stuck inside the liver. It can't get out, even if ferroportin is okay. I know this is complicated, Tia, but the context you're giving me is not enough. If you ended up taking too much copper when you didn't need it, it's going to bottom out your zinc level. Everything has to be in a perfect, usually our body is perfect. It can maintain all of this stuff that I'm talking about. We go and mess it up, usually by what we put in our mouth, okay? That is a huge thing. We are so into, I'm not going to the doctor. I'm not taking their pharma-led big scripts. I'm just going to go take supplements. And then we end up messing things up. We take supplements because we heard this is good for inflammation. Well, then you take it and now it causes something else. It's called whack-a-mole medicine. Whack-a-mole medicine, where you start taking something, you cause something, then you take another thing and you cause more, and on and on and on. And yes, we have polypharmacy as doctors write more and more prescriptions, but you guys are also doing it with all these supplements. Back off, get levels, and don't take anything you don't need. Yes, D Rose just hopped on, so excuse me, but running enlarges your atrium. Yes, running, biking, anything that is endurance activities. Now, if you just go run a mile, or you're running down the street, or you're doing sprints, it is doubtful that you are going to get enlargement of your atrium. Now, over time, because of our crappy diet, we're aging and our atrium is stretching out, okay? We're getting heart failures. Look at how many people have diagnosed heart failures. Oh, that's just because people are living longer. Yeah, well, kinda, but their diet's crap, okay? And they may or may not be exercising, but high endurance activities every single day, chronically for hours a day, is causing plaque buildup in your arteries. And from the constant amount of the volume of blood going through the heart all the time over those 1 to 2 hour sessions, where it could be racquetball, but I doubt it because that's a start-stop kind of a deal. But you never know, okay? Your endurance activities is causing constant volume of blood and constant pressure. You got to pump it through, which we thought was good. But if we start monitoring our heart rate, doctors will say, oh, your heart rate's beautiful. It's 50 and you're in such good shape. Well, that's what we thought. But it's telling you this is the start that your normal heart SA node, the factory, can't keep up with pacing your heart. You've heard of a pacemaker. A pacemaker is inserted into our chest to keep our heart rate at above 60. Above 60, below 72, or wherever they set it, okay? But most people, like my mom's, she was never an exerciser. She is just aged. But she was on, she has high insulin, diabetes. Insulin increases blood pressure. She's got high blood pressure, on blood pressure medicines. All of that pressure and volume decreased her, or increased, stretched out her atrium, basically killed off her SA node, where her pacemaker cells are. And so her heart rate was dropping in the 50s. She never exercised a day in her life. Well, I take that back, but you know what I'm saying. She was not an exerciser. My dad, on the other hand, over-exercised just because of the blood volume and the blood pressure. My mom had the same thing, blood pressure, right? destroyed the SA node. So people say, no, that's just an age thing. Everybody's going to get it. Until you start looking at all these exercisers who have, they have right bundle branch blocks. They have bundle branch blocks and they can't keep their heart rate up. How do you check? Check in the middle of the night. Have them wear their thing in the middle of the night, their heart rate monitor, and see what their heart rate's dropping down to. 40s, 30s. My dad was in the 30s. And he would get a little dizzy every once in a while. And they say, oh, you're just in good shape, Mr. Jensen. Really? We didn't know. We still don't know. We're encouraging people to do all of this. Our bodies were never meant to do that. They were meant to sprint, kill a lion, eat it, go sprint, kill a bear, eat it. We weren't meant to go run all of this distance as an exercise routine. How did that? I don't know. I don't know. I can't answer what our thought process is. Okay, I'm looking for questions. Yeah, Coach, you're really bad blood sugars. You really need to go on a ketogenic diet. SR7. This is the first time I've been to your channel. I am fascinated listening to you. You appear to be a doctor who genuinely cares about the health of others. I do, maybe overly too much. I'm enjoying this very much. Subbed and thank yous for the subscription and the like. You guys, if you're on YouTube right now, we're sitting at 25 thumbs up. Can we get to 35? Can 10 people right now hit the thumbs up button? I would really appreciate it. You don't even have to give me money. Just hit the thumbs up. If you like it, you're still sitting here. Just hit the thumbs up. Interesting thing about taking too much copper, you will know about it within a week because your fecal matter will be completely different than what it should be. Explain. Explain. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Buddy is a sweet boy, I will tell you. Federal Financial and Power says, hola, just joined. You were talking about diabetes. How do you stop diabetes? Stop the intoxication, which is sugar. My wife is type 2. My son is on dialysis. What do I do? I don't know what your son's diagnosis is, but a type 2 diabetic has sugar intoxication, carbohydrate toxicity. You're going to have to somehow get your wife and your son to get off of high carb diets. Oh, you cannot stop diabetes? Okay, Coach, good luck with all of yours. You think it's not reversible? Then go on and take your metformin and add your GLP and take more insulin and gain more weight because high insulin is going to cause you to get fatter. And you will eventually go into heart failure and get coronary artery disease. Coach, your heart rate will never drop below 90 because you have high blood pressure from high insulin. So in order to pump that blood under such high pressure, your heart has to speed up in order to get blood to your brain. And over time, your heart will wear out from pumping at a 90 to 100 all the time, and you'll get heart failure. Oh, we're almost there, you guys. I need 2 more to get to our goal. Thumbs up. Hit that thumbs up. Thanks, Habanero. Habanero says, yes, you can stop diabetes, but let's not call anybody anything, names. I know it just hits you in the wrong spot, Habanero, but when we use name calling, it's not good. That is another way of attacking. And it's an argument used as if I attack the character. You call somebody a fool. That's basically an ad hominem type of argument. And we don't want to do that on this channel. We don't want to call people names and use ad hominem attacks on people. I understand that from a passionate standpoint, you felt like, hey, yes, we can reverse diabetes. We hope we can. But calling somebody a name, it just doesn't do us any good. And I would, if you could maybe just to apologize, that would be nice. Coach, sometimes we just don't know. Okay. All right, you guys. I think we could probably keep answering questions all day long. You guys are awesome. But maybe we should call it quits and bring this back tomorrow. I don't even know where to go for tomorrow's live stream. We do this Saturday at 9 a.m. Central, Sunday at 10 a.m. Central. And honestly, this was good today. I did not know that we were going to go in this deep and reading labs, but I guess I needed you guys to understand what my job is now. My job is to help you read your own labs and to understand what those labs mean. And sometimes we need more labs than what your doctor is willing to order. If we have a diagnosis code, it gets him or her off the hook. A diagnosis code of fatigue, I believe it's R53 point something, will pay for a lot of labs. It'll pay for a thyroid panel, it'll pay for an iron panel, it'll pay for a CBC. It pays for a lot of things just from one diagnosis code of fatigue. You could say, doctor, I'm tired every once in a while. Isn't everybody? And if the doctor really wants to save you money and help you learn what's going on, they'll use R53 point whatever for fatigue, and it'll pay for a lot of your labs. Okay? Most everybody listening is vitamin D deficient. If you put a vitamin D deficiency code, it'll pay for a vitamin D level. Most everybody listening is probably B12 deficient. Okay? At least 49% of the population is B12 deficient. Okay? What is deficient? Well, you know what? A normal B12 should be in the 800s, 900s, maybe even 1,000. And you guys are sitting around 200 or 300. It's no wonder you have brain dysfunction and brain fog. You can't function on that low level of B12. So if they put B12 deficiency, or actually it's called a deficiency of B vitamins, which most everybody is, it'll pay for those levels. It's the doctor wanting to work with the client, okay? I don't want you to spend any more money than you have to. You pay, usually you're paying insurance premiums upwards to $1,000 a month. And your doctor is saying, I'm not ordering those. What kind of power do they think they have? Even with myself, if somebody asked for a lab and I said, you want a ceruloplasmin level? What the heck is that? I don't know how to interpret that. Would you sign this form that gets me off the hook that you requested it and you'll pay for it if it doesn't get paid by insurance? But it gets me off the hook. I'm not interpreting it. I have no idea what that is. Well, I do now, but you see what I'm saying? You guys, my patients were way ahead of me. They might not have been able to connect all the dots, but they knew exactly what level labs they wanted to get. And they knew why. And I said, I have no idea what those are. That's okay, Dr. Jensen. Just order the labs. You don't have to interpret anything. Just give me the lab results. I'll do my own. And I'll say, okay, but you need to sign this form. I don't want to get sued. Yep, of course, doctor, I'll sign your form. In fact, I'll go write it up right now, type it up and have you sign it. We'll put it in my chart. You're off the hook. Thank you. But yeah, Calm Pretzel says, how about those whose sugar drops? Well, it drops because you have high insulin. Get an insulin level, Calm Pretzel. Get an insulin level. Your fasting insulin level should be between 3 and 5. 3 and 5. Your blood sugar or your insulin levels is high. It's bottoming out your blood sugar. You feel super low. It might not even be low. Your blood sugar could be averaging 126 and it drops down to 90. You don't feel well. You get a headache and you say your blood sugar is low. No, it's actually normal. People who are used to a high blood sugar and it drops down to a normal level, optimal, which is 70 to 80, feel like they're going to go berserko. They got to eat and they're getting all nervous when their blood sugar is normal, in a normal range, because they're so used to it high. That's why you get the headache and the super low blood pressure. Get an insulin level. Just, that would be awesome. I know, habanero, but it's okay. You cannot help everybody. You cannot save anyone. You cannot save anyone. All you can do is work on you and be the salt and the light and try to share wherever your faith is. I'm a Jesus believer. I want everybody to see that I got Jesus in me, okay? Which I do have Jesus in me. Sometimes we're not always acting like Jesus would, okay? But that's why we're imperfect and need him to save us. I do. Anyway, save the names. I know in your brain, if you want to think it in your brain, that's fine, but that's not very Christ-like. Anyway, please don't, just say you're sorry and move on, okay? All right. Okay. All right. You guys talk it out over there between Coach and Habanero. All right. Okay. We'll call this quit. Tia wants to say, what book can I buy to start a keto diet to help treat my insulin resistance? Okay. You could either get Sean Baker's book, Dr. Sean Baker. You can get that book. There's also a really good one. Tia, I think this would be good, and I think you would relate. I don't know you, but I think just from knowing you on here, maybe you would relate to Judy Chow's Nutrition with Judy, and get her book. It might be a little easier going where she's very soft like and it explains and she starts out kind of easy with the carnivore, but yet she's to the point too. Okay, so all right. You're welcome, Lynn. Okay, all right, okay. We're gonna call it quits. And we'll be back. Bring your questions. Can you guys be here at 10 a.m.? If yes, hit the thumbs up. Okay? Gotcha. Do it again. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central. Again, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. You guys brought up a lot of topics today. Thyroid, AFib, VFib, bundle branch blocks. Again, most people think that's cardiology. You're not a cardiologist. Well, do you guys need to be a doctor to know about your copper level? No. Dr. Jensen might not know about the Purkinje fibers and how the opening and closing of the valves and all of that stuff from a cardiology standpoint. She could look it up. She could get really good at understanding this valve opens and that valve closes and this door opens and that door closes and all of these things and the fibers and all of that. Yeah, we could all learn that. But the basics is what you guys need. Just the basics. Oh, Sasha says, I want a bundle branch block conversation. We can talk about that tomorrow. I'll look it up. Can I just spin it right off of my brain right now? Nope. There's right bundle branch blocks. There's left bundle branch blocks. We can see a lot on an EKG. I've never been one that loved to read EKGs. Couldn't stand it. Could not stand it. And when we're doing in residency, we got EKGs on everyone. And it's a minute in time, you guys. It's seconds in time. We push the button, record, and it's done. We don't know what your heart's doing at home or what it's doing out in the street, okay? That's why we might get a Holter monitor where you wear, the patches and you carry a little box on your belt line and it monitors you for a week. But a lot of times we can pick up, I've caught AFibs. I can have people in my office and they look fine. One I remember, he was either a police officer or he was an EMT. And I said, how come I've never heard this before? I remember saying, how come I've never heard this before? And he goes, hear what? And I said, I think you are an AFib. He goes, what? And I said, yeah, We got to go get you an EKG. We get an EKG, okay? And his heart rate was really fast. Again, he went over to the EKG, but luckily, cardiologist was on call and got him on a rate-lowering agent right away and put him on a blood thinner, okay? And now he probably still sees cardiology, and he goes in and out of AFib and didn't even know it. And it just so happened that I caught him on that day in the office. I listened, he's in AFib, and he goes, what? I mean, it surprised him. So when we got a Holter monitor on him and he wore it, he was in and out of it. It's called paroxysmal, in and out of AFib. But what if he went into AFib, had a blood clot, and all of a sudden his heart pumped that blood clot into his brain or heart or wherever, you know, and caused a blockage of an artery or blockage of his brain, okay? We caught it. He's on medications, but guess what? Dr. Jensen did not look into why he got AFib. Why is it that his heart, his pacemaker cells were not working? We never did look. Never did. That was a long time ago. But now I would probably go down rabbit holes to try to figure it out. Okay, you guys. Lord willing, I'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central. So until then, please share this. Hit the thumbs up, the hearts, the whole thing. Send a message. Tell me where you've been listening from. Just put some comments in there. This was really good. Please talk about bundle branch blocks tomorrow. All of that stuff. Okay? All right, you guys. Have a wonderful day. And Lord willing, we'll be back tomorrow. See ya.